When I line these guys up in the stat, it is just green check marks almost all the way down. And that's pretty incredible considering Gane is a gifted striker.
Welcome to First Strike, only on VSiN, the sports betting network. Here's your hosts, Dave Ross and Rob Moreno.
And welcome to another edition of First Strike here on VSiN. I'm your host, Dave Ross, going to be joined by Rob Moreno, El Modelo in a little bit, but it is a pleasure to welcome back to the program the one and only Reed Kuhn. Give him a follow on X at Fightnomics. He is the author of a book of the same title. Reed, we love to have any excuse to talk to you, really, but certainly when you have a big pay-per-view card like this that's going to be overseas, going to get up early here stateside to get to it. I did want to get some thoughts from you. It's a very non-American card with the heavyweight champion of the world here from England and Tom Aspinall against the Frenchman and Ciryl Gane over there in Riyadh season. Does that affect the handicapping at all when you look at where these fighters come from geographically for a place like this?
So that's one of those things where you got to think outside the model, so to speak. So in the model, no, we actually don't take location into account. I have been in circumstances where I'm eyeballing a situation. Gamrot versus Oliveira was one of them. In theory, I might have taken a stab at Gamrot at one point. I was thinking I was going to land there early on, and I backed off. You know, this is a uphill road for him, short notice against the homeboy in Brazil, and I ended up passing on that, and it's a good thing. Now, that looks like a smart move then, but there's also been other circumstances that could work against you. I try not to overthink it. And I've built the model to just rely on that answer. Location is not a factor. Time zone changes are not a factor. In the model, again, they could be a factor for the fighters. But regionally, at least with this heavyweight, at least they're coming from about the same time zone away.
Yeah, right. So you got the Englishman against the Frenchman here. I'm surprised when I see some of the numbers out there. Cannot wait to get your thoughts on the main event here. Aspinall obviously should be a big favorite. I've seen as high as $5 in some books here, less than $4 at some other shops. So it does vary by almost $1 here at different shops. But Reed, what are the numbers showing you? Again, I think we can all understand why he's the favorite, but is he too big a favorite against a guy like Ciryl Gane?
I think where I've landed on this one is I essentially agree with that, minus 400 range price. He's a big favorite. When I line these guys up in the stats, and I'll probably tweet the Uber tail of the tape at some point this week, it is just green check marks almost all the way down. And that's pretty incredible considering Gane is a gifted striker. But Aspinall, I think that's an underrated aspect of his game, is that he has the hands, he also has the ground game. And when you have a heavyweight, really in any fighter matchup where you have someone who can do both, but they're also dangerous on the ground, facing kind of a one-dimensional, as gifted as he is on the feet, Gane, you got to go with the grappler because he gets to decide where this fight takes place. He gets to put it on the ground, and Gane is essentially going to be helpless there in terms of defending himself. It's probably a submission waiting to happen. At least that's the way I see it panning out. But it's the fact that Aspinall is very competent in his hands as well that makes it kind of a double whammy in terms of, is there a shot in an upset? If I saw some holes in Aspinall's game on the feet, you'd say, okay, well, if he can't get the submission, he's got to start each round on his feet. Gane's got a chance. It's less likely. Statistically speaking, Aspinall actually has slightly better accuracy and defense in terms of power striking. He also hits a lot harder. The shock stat here, I think, for Gane is that his knockdown rate is actually below the average for heavyweights. That surprised me. I was just thinking that, hey, he's still got a puncher's chance. And then on paper, it's much less likely. So I think that's why the models really slid with the line and said, yeah, we agree with him at 4-1. So I just think you got to find a different angle. Go under 2.5, you might get a slightly better price. If you go under 1.5, you'll get an even better price. Or you just take Aspinall inside the distance to bring that price down.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So we know how athletic Ciryl Gane is, but is he going to use that athleticism to try to stay away from Aspinall in the shots? Because I don't know if he can defend them. That's the thing. We'll be able to defend takedowns to keep this fight going. That'll be the key early, at least in this fight. But I get the sense, Reed, that you see it's almost inevitable at some point Aspinall is going to be able to get the fight down to the ground if that's where he wants to get it. Let's talk about some of the plays that your model really likes this week. And I'm so glad that I'm on the same side as you on one of them. It's Jailton Almeida against Alexander Volkov. And you think of the big Russian here and the length that he has here. And then Almeida, the Brazilian, We know what his strength is. It might be a one-trick pony, but it's a really good trick. Do you see that playing out in this one?
Yeah, this one's even more extreme than the last one. It's crazy. You go into Almeida's numbers. I think he has the highest percentage of total octagon time spent not only on the ground, but also dominating someone with position. And it's something ridiculous. It's like 77% of his total fight time. So he wastes no time. The actual time between his takedowns is less than 15 seconds. He does not spend time in open water with people. And when you're facing a rangy guy like Volkov, who is a great kickboxer, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to get close very, very quickly. Almeida's striking clearly it's not even striking. It's like more of a distraction just to set up the takedown. He's never landed a jab. He's only landed 8 power punches in his entire UFC career. So obviously he's going to do what we all know he's going to do. He is going to blast forward. And if he doesn't get the takedown, he's going to push him on the fence and drag him down eventually and then get back control. So I really do think this is inevitably going to be Almeida with a ground finish of some kind. Once again, with Gane, obviously, okay, does he have a puncher's chance? Can he keep it out range? At least he does have better takedown defense than Ciryl Gane. But Volkov also, surprisingly, has similar knockdown power as Ciryl Gane, which is to say below the heavyweight average, which, again, is shocking to me. We think of these guys as great strikers, and they are. I think that's part of it, is that they're good point strikers, they're good technical strikers. They're not all about the one-hit power like Derek Lewis. But I just don't think that's going to be that's not enough. That's not the finishing weapon that you need. This is a fight where I think you do need to be like a Derek Lewis type, although I don't think I can't remember how he fared with Almeida. But Volkov, that power is not enough. Landing strikes on the way in, a few jabs here and there is not going to be enough. He's not going to have his kicking game, because if he tries that, he's going to end up on the ground even faster. So I'm all over Almeida on this one. I think he's only had one loss in the UFC, but otherwise he's just, he goes down early and it's over. It's almost like, Khabib back in the day. Like, you just know it's inevitable that he's going to get you on the fence or get you to the ground.
Yeah, but Curtis Blades he kind of got stuck on one of those takedowns, and the elbows came from Curtis on the takedown attempt. And you're right, I keep thinking about that Volkov and Derek Lewis fight, a fight that Volkov was winning so easily until he wasn't at the end when the Black Beast took him out. So points fighter, that might be difficult against Almeida to try to do that for 15 minutes, and that's why that total's sitting at 1.5 and not 2.5 here for that potential 3-round fight. I'm looking at Umar Nurmagomedov against Mario Bautista. We know Bautista's on this great win streak here. But boy, over there at Riyadh season to fight where he's fighting, and he is a massive underdog here. Over a 6 betting favorite I'm seeing on Nurmagomedov. Reed, can the numbers actually back him up to be that big a favorite?
This one, I think I see less value overall, but I still agree with Nurmagomedov as being the heavy favorite. And I sound like a broken record. Yet another amazing grappler. He wastes no time getting people down. So then you got to look at the opposite side of the cage and say, does this guy have enough maybe to buy some time to land something and work his own striking game? And in this case, Bautista's takedown defense is maybe marginally above average, but given that they're going to be coming at him at twice the normal rate with still the normal success rate from Nurmagomedov, it again feels inevitable. And once he's on the ground, Bautista, it's not like he is incompetent on the ground. I think Gane and Volkov probably have less of a ground game than Bautista does, but it's just at this weight class, he only has one knockdown in his career, and that's in over almost 2 hours of octagon time. He's only dropped someone once in his career. That's asking a lot from a guy who's going to be defending. He's going to be playing defense this whole time. And this is not going to be a crowd that's going to boo just because Nurmagomedov is maybe laying and praying and stalling it out. He's not going to get any help from the ref there. So it just really just stacks the deck in terms of Nurmagomedov. You're going to have to pay a pretty penny. I think this is going to be a chalky situation for multiple grapplers, but that could be your grappler trio parlay of the day.
Bautista wants to use those leg kicks to keep the range there, but you're right. Nurmagomedov is going to shoot some more. And by the way, that's sitting at 2.5 right now, that total for potential 3-round fight, and juiced heavily to the over at minus 270 right now. So expecting Nurmagomedov maybe to wear out Batista as that fight goes on. Some leans that the model is showing you here, Reed. I'm very intrigued by the Mackenzie Dern title fight against Virna Jandiroba. This is a rematch. Of course, Mackenzie won the first time around. She's a solid favorite again against Virna here. We know what Mackenzie wants to do, right? This is one of the best BJJ practitioners we've seen in the women's side. She wants to get the fight down to the ground and look for submissions. I'm assuming Virna would like to play the clinch game or keep it separated as much as she can. What's the model showing you here in this rematch in the co-main event?
So I did have some concern on this one. Virna is a very good wrestler, and Mackenzie Dern, I think, is all too willing to go to the ground because she relies on that submission game. But how did MMA evolve back in the day when we had a Gracie who was submitting everybody? We got some wrestlers who were great at just creating a lot of top pressure and holding them down, nullifying those submissions and grinding them out. And in their first fight, Virna did have one round that she took off of Dern. And she was the only fighter that landed a takedown in between the two of them. Dern was not able to get this to the ground. So I did have a little bit of hesitation when I went back and just looked at the stats from their first fight. Mm-hmm. But fast forward, Dern has had more time to evolve. She was actually, pretty young then. It was 5 years ago. We now have Virna as 37 and a half. She's gotten a little bit older. She's certainly not, absolutely at the peak of her career. But I do wonder about that wrestler versus submission artist dynamic, because I don't want to see a situation where Dern is saying, oh, I'll take my chances on the mat. It'll be great. I'll get a submission. And she doesn't get it. And then she realizes she's down a round. And then she's up against the corner. Now, that I say all that just to put a little, temperament on the fact that the models do like Dern here. And maybe part of that's age, part of that's both of them have great submission or at least good grappling stats. They both do have submissions. And I think Dern, it's the scrambles, and she might stay fresher a little longer. And that's giving me some confidence in playing that pick.
It's interesting, too. You don't see this a lot. I mean, you do in women's MMA in 2.5 rounds, a line of 2.5 for 3-round fights. But in this championship bout, Mackenzie's had cardio issues in the past. She looks better. I saw the weigh in. She looks like she's there physically, certainly, for this title bout here. 4.5, but it's not heavily juiced here, Reed. Shows me that the books are kind of, they're not quite sure if we might get a submission one way or the other. Do you think Mackenzie would have enough against the older Jandiroba here to possibly find a submission inside of 4.5 rounds?
It's possible, but keep in mind, Virna is a pretty decorated grappler herself, and usually that comes with defense. Everybody learns offense. It's the true veterans and the truly skilled fighters that also have the defense to back it up. So getting a finish, I mean, they've already been in the cage for 3 rounds, and Dern did win that fight. She wasn't able to finish her then. So here I would also, I would take some pause there. This feels a little too uncertain. Also, because of the volatility of Dern, we've seen her look like a world beater, and then we've also seen her test her hands and get dinged up and then gas out, and we've seen 1 or 2 just really disappointing performances, and so that gives me a little bit of pause here. So, I still think she can grind this out. I still think she'll eventually end up in position control, but I'm not going to take a side on the finishes on this one.
One other fight that you've got earlier here on the prelims, Ludovic Klein. I'm a big fan of backing Ludovic in certain price points here. He's not a massive favorite against Rebecca here. I'm seeing about $1.42 here to the Klein side. Does the model support that at a small price point? So I think finally we'll actually see some striking between these two guys. Rebecca is more likely to want to take this to the ground, but Klein does have good takedown defense. He's one of those great strikers who knew that he had to learn takedown defense. Otherwise, he's just going to, always be put on his back because no one's going to want to strike with him. And so people have tested that. He's faced, I think, 34 takedown attempts in his career to date in the UFC. He has way above average takedown defense, whereas, Rebecca, decent wrestling, doesn't use it that much. I think he's willing to stand and trade. He has 4 knockdowns of his own. That's pretty good. But there's going to be a huge size discrepancy here, massive range advantage for Klein. And I think also he's the more accurate striker. He's got better defense.
His knockdown rate is slightly higher. So just a lot of check marks along the column for Klein while it's standing, and I think his takedown defense should hold long enough for him to win those points. So I think finally we're going to actually see a little bit of a shootout on the feet. He'll force the standing range, and then they'll get into it. And one thing is that Rebecki, he does use an abnormally high pace of striking, and I think that could work against him because he's going to be trying to close the gap on a much rangier fighter, a much rangier and gifted, accurate striker, and that guy, I think he's going to make him pay for coming forward. So I think there's enough to like here on a Klein side, and we're actually getting a pretty affordable price.
Now, I'm assuming you're going to be in Washington, D.C. for this fight card on the East Coast?
Yes, I'm finally home and probably hosting the after party of a child's birthday party. So,
well, I
don't
what do you do?
What I'm doing. I do know I'm going to have company, and now I got to figure out how many people I want to cook for.
Yeah, you're gonna do like a breakfast. How do you do this for the early start? Do you do like a breakfast menu? What's it gonna look like?
Well, yeah, I think we're gonna be showing up here like right as the title fights are starting. So yeah, one of those situations where I'm going to be a little distracted during the actual fights.
Reed, you're the best, man. We appreciate it. Everybody give him a follow on X at Fightnomics. You put out incredible data that everybody uses. Even in Rob Moreno, you're kind of the father of the analytics community. So we all look to you and go, man, that's the man that got everything started here. We appreciate your time as always, Reed. Best of luck with the fights. Can't wait to see the menu, even if it's limited for the title fights. Enjoy your Saturday. We'll catch up again soon.
Thank you.
There he is, Reed Kuhn, everybody. Great stuff as always. When we come back, Rob Moreno is going to join the program to see what the model shows with Reed's model and compare and contrast. That's next right here on First Strike.
You're tuned in to First Strike right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
And we continue First Strike here on a Wednesday as we get ready for Saturday's UFC 321 card. Dave Ross and Rob Moreno here with you. Great having Reed Kuhn on. In the last segment. We always love catching up with Reed, and he really is. I kind of look to him, Rob, like with El Modelo and the numbers that we do. He's the father of it. I think like we try to stress that to people when you watch us here. He's the guy, man, that everybody's been getting these numbers for over a decade now.
He's the godfather of MMA analytics. I'm like a far stepchild, I guess, if I want to be that, but he definitely was a huge motivating factor to knowing that it's possible to do even what I do on a smaller level.
And again, it's made me, as somebody that's always talked to the fighters, been around the fighters, kind of going the abstract routes here for handicapping. It's helped me, too, when you use those numbers with some of those other factors to try to get home on fights. And by the way, if you're new to First Strike, you're new to VSiN, you need to be a VSiN Pro subscriber because right now it's as little as $9.99 for your very first month. You'll get access to what I'm going to give out by the books every week here with Jensen Lewis. Rob, your articles will also be up there. And, of course, when we have guests like Reed Kuhn on, we're going to have his plays made available as well. So if you're a UFC bettor, no better time than the present to become a VSiN Pro subscriber for just $9.99.
Absolutely. And VSiN's got so much going on. We got the Equinox coming next week, which doesn't count the UFC. I get it. But this weekend, and it's important to have because guess what? This card is early in the morning.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make that cup of coffee early, have some violence on the TV, and you don't got to worry about it. Just subscribe. That way you can just log in Friday night, Saturday morning, be ready to go.
It's all there for you. That's why we do what we do, so you don't have to worry about it, people at home. Let's continue with some of the plays that you see out there, and if they match up with Reed's numbers here. And again, I do have one play, and I'll give it to you now, Rob, before I get some of your selections. I did play the over in the main event at 1.5, and I laid the $1.25. So I got to get over 7.5 minutes. Now, I'll tell you, I'm nervy after talking to Reed.
I was about to ask you.
I am very nervous, but I want to get your thoughts too. And the reason why I played it is because we haven't seen Aspinall inside an octagon in over a year, right?
It's been a while.
And Cyryl's looked pretty good in the two post-John Jones fights. I think everybody's stuck in the John Jones fight, and they've kind of forgotten what he's done since, 2-0 since that. And he has gone the distance in the 3-round fight in one of those, and he got the polar bear out of there relatively quickly in the first round. I don't think he's getting Tom Aspinall out inside of a round, right? So my theory is Aspinall, it's been a minute. He might take his time. I don't see him just diving in for takedowns right away. And plus, I think great fighters, Rob, if he knows that Ciryl Gane, his only chance is with the hands, how many times have you seen great fighters say, I want to beat you at what you do best because I know you can't threaten me on the ground. I can get the takedowns whenever I want to get them. I think he plays the hands game with Ciryl for the first 5 minutes. And then if it's somewhat competitive, he starts to shoot. And I think that might come in the second round. It's almost like playing with your food a little bit. That's what I think Aspinall is going to do. Give Ciryl his one chance in the first 5 minutes. And then the first 2.5 minutes of the second round, I'll be holding my breath if he gets him down to the ground.
That's what I was envisioning is that first 5 minutes, I feel like you're going to be very comfortable. And then that second round,
look out.
Here we go. I mean, just for context. And you know what? I totally see that. And you've been hot. So who am I to question these totals? But for example, the last time Tom Aspinall took a year off, he came back and had a 1 minute victory over Curtis Blades.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what his ring rust looks like because it's happened a couple times, but he comes back. I mean, he's only seen the second round in the UFC once. Yeah. Ironically, against Andrei Arlovsky. I don't know how Andrei Arlovsky made it out of there.
Survived 5, right?
I don't know how he survived 5. But he only lasted a minute into the second round. So right. Tom still made quick work of that. But I get what you mean. It's been a while. There's maybe an elevated level of pressure now that he is the heavyweight king. We're not living in the ghost of John Jones anymore. It's not. Right. This isn't an interim title defense. This is his actual first title defense. So yeah, maybe he could hey, this is a real contender here. Let me take my pace. Let me measure things out. We know he loves to measure his distance and everything like that. So, yeah, I could see how we get to 7.5.
I just hope, because I will be very nervy, Rob, in that first 5 minutes, that's for sure, if he shoots. But I'm just hoping, be patient, Tom. What's the rush? Let's put on a show a little bit now as the heavyweight champion of the world. When you look at the co-main event here with Jandiroba against Dern, and I'm glad that Reed pointed out maybe the trepidation that you could have in backing Mackenzie Dern in this spot. Now, Virna is getting older, that's for sure, and she lost the first time around even by getting the takedown and winning around that first time around. Do you see it going differently the second time?
You know, the model sees it very close. They've both had very different, not super different, but they've had different paths since that matchup back in 2020. Dern's actually 5-4 since that meeting back in 2020, so it's not the most impressive record. And I think you talked about it with Reed, where it feels like she's given us a couple dud fights where we think, I think for a while everyone's thought Mackenzie Dern is a title challenger, but when we put her up there, then she puts up a dud. It's weird to watch her fight sometimes. And Virna, it's hard to find space outside of the grappling on where she wins this. Her striking output is so low. Virna's striking is 1.97 significant strikes landed per minute. That is so low. Wow. With a negative differential, by the way, 0.59. Now, Dern isn't some crazy striker either. We know that. 3.31, though. At least she's above that 3 marker. Still a negative differential. So they both get hit. They both get knocked around. Dern has been dropped before. 6 times she's been knocked down. Yeah. But with the low output from Virna, it's not really a concern for me. So it just goes down to the ground. And I kind of agree with everything Reed was saying is that, Virna does have some control on the ground. She is actually very offensive. It seems like whoever may get that initial top control will probably win that round. And that's kind of how we're going to be holding our breath. Now, this is somewhere where my model actually sees in favor of Jandiroba. It does go opposite of Reed, but it is so close. It is very tight. So I understand how whatever Reed does differently would go Dern's way. And honestly, at the price that it's at, even though she's the underdog, it's still kind of a hold back for me at the moment. Honestly, I'm still kind of on the Dern side, even at the price. When she won their first match, she was actually the exact same odds. So it's almost like the odds are telling us nothing has changed. So right now it's too tight for an official play, even at the plus 130. She was plus 150 earlier in the week. So the odds are even coming the opposite way.
I got to tell you, the one thing, though, Rob, that I'm looking at, and I'm not to the window yet on it, but it might be an official play before we get to Saturday. I am looking at the under 4.5, and I'll tell you why. I still have scars of backing Mackenzie Dern and seeing her gas out. And I will tell you this, and this is why I asked Reed about it right off the top of the conversation. Our one kind of American fighter, if you will, that's going over there with Virna in a different part of the world for these ladies. But I worry about the adrenaline dump from Mackenzie Dern. I really do. And then I think she's going, this is her title moment. This is what she's been waiting for. It's right there with a very favorable opponent, somebody she's already beaten to get this title. And I wonder that if she doesn't get her out of there early, does she gas? And then Virna, I can't believe it, controls Mackenzie and looks for a submission if she's completely gassed out. Like, I don't know that these ladies are going to be dragged to the finish line for 5 full rounds, because I see a world where Mackenzie gets it done relatively quickly. She does. They go down to the ground, and the BJJ is better than Virna's wrestling. She gets her in a compromising position, and I think she's the best BJJ practitioner we have in this weight class. That's where I am on Mackenzie Dern. And I don't see that coming from Virna early. But if I see the adrenaline dump, I think I've got a double handicap in 2 ways to get to the under, depending on how this fight goes early. But I don't see them stalemating on the hands, walking around for 5 minutes and no action. It's going to go down to the ground, and I think that's where the gas tanks might get sapped a little bit.
You got me believing in Virna a little bit more, actually. And Mackenzie's takedown defense is only 25%.
That's great.
So the chance of Virna grabbing a hold is there, and you're right. I mean, it's something we can't measure, but does Dern just kind of drop the ball in these big spots?
Big spot for her. I mean, this is tailor-made for Mackenzie Dern to win the crown, and I wonder if she's going to fumble the bag a little bit here. So, look, I'm rooting for her. I don't know that I'll be betting for her. I think I might be on the Virna side here, but that under is starting to be enticing here at about $1.05 price point here for under 4.5. I mentioned the Umar Nurmagomedov fight against Mario Bautista. Bautista's a dog, man. That dude will take anybody anytime. If you're going to fight Umar here, where are you going to fight him in Riyadh season? And he's a massive underdog. Rob, does the model show you any life for the dog?
It does not.
Didn't think so.
Honestly, looking up Umar's numbers, I forgot how good he was.
Yeah.
And not that I forgot how good he was, but ironically, this is going to be like a Merab Dvalishvili fandom right here, but it shows how good Merab is, because that was his first career loss, by the way, going for the title against Merab Dvalishvili, in which Umar went in as a favorite, by the way.
Yeah.
He was 18-0. Just some of his numbers before Merab. So he had an XR percentage of 92% when he faced Merab Dvalishvili. It is now down to 81% after one fight. Now, that's still elite. Any fighter I see at 81%, I'm thinking elite, but it's crazy what Merab did to him for 5 rounds. Bautista currently sits at 67% XR percentage, and that's with his 8-fight win streak. So it's not the biggest thing. Umar's control rate, by the way, 91% control rate in the clinch and ground time. It was 97% before he met Merab. So it's just crazy what Merab was able to do to him. It's just, I'm going to be a future, if there's anywhere I can sign that Merab is a future GOAT of the UFC, I will sign it. But anyways, that's not the fight we're talking about. Umar is the clear favorite here. It's just everything goes his way. It's his control. I think it's a great bounce back spot for him. I think Reed said everything that needed to be said. It's Mario Bautista. What works for him isn't going to work against a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov. He's going to have and he's kind of he's in the home crowd here.
Yeah, totally. This is all Umar. This is set up big time. That's why he's the massive favorite that he is. And again, I look at Bautista and I'm thinking, like, if you ever had to fight a snake, you just have to kick and stay away, right? And that's what Bautista is going to try to do, is use his kicks to keep the space so that Umar can't get to the clinch, which ultimately gets the fight down to the ground. Because once he gets a hold of you, it's going to be really tough to either A, survive off your back, but it is juiced, by the way, to over 2.5 rounds heavily, that Bautista can survive on the ground, which would lead you to Nurmagomedov by decision. Do you see that, or do you think he's got finishing potential here against Mario?
I have it put down as, kind of like you said, I haven't gone to the window with it, but I have it put down as probably Umar by decision, because this price keeps going up. Because Monday I had Nurmagomedov at -550. That's already -625. So I'm imagining it's going to creep up even a little bit more. So the decision prop at -175, everything tells me that's where it goes. Bautista is a tough guy to finish. He's only been stopped twice in the UFC. It's been a couple years. And I could see that Umar most likely wanting to just get the win here, put back his dominance in raising the name of Nurmagomedov and just what they were known for, and showing how dominant he can be, and reminding Merab that he can be a threat maybe in the future again.
Little rematch coming. You should be a matchmaker.
Yeah.
You're getting me sold on the rematch. I want to see it again. Umar against Merab.
But he's got to get the win here.
You know what? I'd like to see him finish the fight, like because Bautista's respected in that regard, right? That he's such a tough guy to finish. That if you're a $6 betting favorite, don't coast for 15 minutes. Let's see if you can get the work done. But the numbers are saying no, that's not going to happen because it's minus 270 here over 2.5 rounds. Rob, tell the people tomorrow on Thursday, you're going to have an article out for VSiN.com. If you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, what are you going to have out there for the people?
Yeah, I'll have a couple more fights in there, a little bit more on how I'm approaching the card. It's a very chalky card.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens with these pay-per-views. They want to display their stars, and so we get a lot of one-sided ways. But I think there's a couple parlays that are able to be hit here, or even decision props. And we do have our favorites. Louis Sutherland and Walter Walker are jumping in there. I won't have anything written up there about that, but
Walter Walker by heel hook. Just bet it now, people.
Just make the bet. But no, the article will have a couple more analytic type stuff for all those fight nerds out there that love reading the data. I'll have that on the fights we talked about today and a couple more fights for them.
Awesome. Thanks for everybody for tuning into this edition of First Strike. Tell your friends, like, subscribe right now. And again, if you're not a VSiN Pro subscriber, we highly urge you to do so, not just UFC, but across every sport. We got you covered with experts in every single field. Rob, you're the best. Appreciate it as always, my friend. Our thanks always to Reed Kuhn as well. Thanks for watching. Cash some tickets. We'll see you next time right here. First Strike on VSiN.